Alrighty guys, how's it going? There's lots of different ways on the subject we're going to talk about today. We're going to be dealing with NIKASIL and cutting chambers. There is most definitely a lot of ways to do this. When you have an aftermarket cylinder that is plated up and into the chamber, when you go to use like Dyno Joe style, doesn't even have to be Dyno Joe's, it could be any kind of mandrel that you've cut and put a bit in or made. It is best to get the NIKASIL, and by far the absolute easiest way to get the NIKASIL is with a tungsten carbide bit and chucking this thing up in a lathe and going in there and just cutting this chamber with a lathe. That's the absolute easiest way I've ever found to get through that hard NIKASIL. Now, some Chinese cylinders, the NIKASIL's not even really NIKASIL. It's, if you can scratch it with a screwdriver, it cuts pretty easy. It won't hurt your tooling. But some of these farmer techs, the NIKASIL is actually pretty hard on, and it seems to be like extra thick up into the chamber. And I wanted to show you guys another way to use Dyno Joe's cutter and make the bit last longer and have a better experience cutting. You guys always know I've got like a whole drawer full of pistons. I keep all sorts of pistons. I know people that use wooden dowels that are turned to the right size on lathe. I know people that make metal ones, aluminum ones, all kinds of sanding apparatuses. If this was an OEM cylinder, I would probably have sandpaper stuck to this, and I'd have it in the lathe, and I'd actually use the pressure of the tailstock. But we're going to go low tech. This is just a piece of 80 grit onto a 372 piston, a $12 Farmer Tech piston that I keep around here for just doing stuff like this. This one's a flat top. I've got different angles and tapers, especially if I'm trying to feather edge in and blend in chambers to get a nice roll that I want or whatever. This paper still feels pretty decent for what we're going to do here. So when you cut this out, make sure it's not sticking past the piston so it doesn't catch on you. You know, if you go to put this in there and it stops, just don't force it down. It should drop in just like that. And then this is just a drill. I just go in here, try to keep it as square as I can, and you do not turn it fast by any means. The slower the better. If you get any kernels of stuff up between that piston and cylinder wall, you could do damage to your cylinder wall. And then you can feel it kind of catch and bind. When you feel that, you stop what you're doing. You jiggle this back and forth. You lift it up. Then you can see the stuff on here. I gotta find my blow gun. I'm gonna shut the compressor off. It'll probably kick on. Grab my blow gun. Where's my blow gun? On the bench. Here's some hose. Until I didn't prepare it all for this video, but yesterday Dad had an awesome day. He's having kind of a off day today, which kind of sucks. Well, that don't appear to be as bad as I thought to get that. This one must not have been as thick as but slow is your friend. You just get in there and blitz it fast, you're just going to tear up your cylinder. Then I'll start backing off pressure. You can cut your whole chamber this way if you want. If you do it this way, you have to chamfer the edge of your piston pretty hard. But I think I got the NIKASIL out of there, guys. I'm not seeing any NIKASIL now. So let's set this up for the... This is still all set up from when I cut the chamber on that OEM one. Make sure this is clean. I don't have any aluminum transfer that was on that leftover from the last one I cut. And I got a steel sliver somewhere. Just got stabbed. Keep pressure towards you. Slide it down. The deck cuts are definitely different on these. That's alright, that's looking like about 60 thou. Let's see here. No. Let me pause you, I gotta find my razor blades. Alrighty, this is typically, I only cut about 2 razor blades thickness out. That's a little sloppy, plus we sanded some on it. But we'll be alright. This is just a experimental toy, but we're going to push back up against it and slight down pressure and see how this cuts. I'm not hearing so far. So good, I'm not hearing any NIKASIL, so it must be I got through it. I'm pulling towards me, so I'm not dragging that tool. And this is going to be one of the crumbly cutting cylinders. Unfortunately, sometimes that's how it is. Some of them cut real nice and smooth and nice shavings, and other ones cut crumbly. But we're going to cut this little cheapo test mule cylinder that I plan on doing bad stuff to. I'm going to have to pick up another clone saw. Now when your bit gets loaded up like that, that'll mess with your... But I just knock it off and keep on going. If you push that way on it when you're sliding it down, you're not gonna be happy with the result. And the more you use this cutter, I'll cut all sorts of ways. I'll cut on the lathe, I'll cut Joe's cutter, I'll cut with mandrels. Just depends on what mood I'm in, how I'm feeling, and what I'm trying to get out of the saw. We're definitely gonna, if it's gonna cut like this the whole way, we're gonna be polishing. You can just kind of hear how it's crumbling instead of slicing it. It's just the pot metal that it's made out of. I'm just getting, it's crumbling instead of getting shavings. Now what we're going to do is we're going to keep going down until these skirts touch here. And then typically after that, I'll, if I got a saw or whatever, I'll throw it on there, get a squish reading, and then it'll let me know how much I got to cut off the base and the skirts. That's how I like to do this. And you can use Joe's cutter to cut taper tops. You just got to shim up the tool on an angle, whatever degree that you want. Typically I'll do taper tops in the lathe though. It's just a lot easier. Have a little bit better control. And then sometimes I don't even like to finish on the lathe, and then I'll take like a mandrel or whatever that's cut to the same taper and put sticky on that, and then sand it to the finish that I want. I've showed a bunch of these videos using this cutter. Another nice thing, if you're going to get into porting, if you build a mandrel that's the same size as Joe's cutter, every sleeve that you have, you can slide it on there and then use them sleeves to space out your mandrel. And then you have like one fits a multiple of different, whatever you can cut the chamber with, you can cut the base with the same rings. I have one mandrel set up on my lathe, where if I don't have a steel one already made or an aluminum one, I can just steal the rings off this and put it right on there and go. But it's kind of nice where if you've already got Joe's cutter, you only got to make one mandrel, and then you know, have a whole bunch of stuff that fits it. Works out good. About halfway there. You can just hear that crunchy aluminum. When I go to cut the base on this, I'll probably have to use a real good sharp tool. Otherwise it's gonna maul it up too, because it's not putting a very nice texture on it because of the cheap Chinese aluminum. But I'll show you guys how to fix that here in just a minute too. God, I've heard so many horror stories. Don't put this thing in a drill and try to run it in there to cut the chamber, or a drill press, or a lathe. I've seen people have this tool chucked up on a lathe and they're trying to hold the jug on there. It's a stationary tool. It was meant for you to hand twist the jug around, not turn it into a power operated one. Once them skirts touch, it should start smoothing up a little bit. Tool's getting loaded up. Just clean it off. Doing this in real time, guys. No editing. Every cylinder will cut different for you. If you don't hold it tight to that tool, you'll come back this way a little bit and then cut, and then you'll have a step in there that is a pain in the butt to get back out. I've had a few friends, and I've had some people on the internet that has tried this and had a bad result, and I ended up fixing their cylinders for them. I was able to chuck it up in the lathe and cut that lip out and touch up what they were trying to do. It's looking pretty good so far. About 3/4 of the way done. If this was on a lathe, this would have already been done. But I like doing sometimes this because not everybody's got a lathe. These newer Farmer Tech cylinders, they look pretty decent compared to some of their older stuff. I think they've upped their quality. Aluminum's still pot metal though. Felt it load up there. Just checking it out. Now it sounds like I'm hitting a hard spot. Pulls a big couple kernels out of there. I've had hard spots in OEM cylinders too, especially if it's used. Typically on the exhaust side. That sounds horrible. See a hard spot in there that's not cutting. It's bouncing up. That's where the lathe is. We'll get it. You just patient, take your time. Knocking the booger off in there. Big chunks. Yep, this one for sure would have been easier to do on the lathe, but we will get it. It's almost touching. I think it is touching in spots. And you keep going until you're touching. Get loaded up. Quick cutting. I don't know when I'm going to get around to this saw, but I wanted to make you guys some sort of video. I'm getting on the home stretch. I think what it's doing now is just catching the high spots, and we keep going until I don't feel any high spots, so it's all smooth. Now we're just getting there. Now it's just going around and it's just catching all the chatter in the high spots now that we're starting to touch down here, which means we're almost done. Spot it keeps lifting up on. There. It's like a 1/4 inch wide rock hard spot. No telling what they casted this aluminum was before. One little spot. Every time it goes around, I'm getting that spot a little bit smaller. That's what's coming off in these crumbs. It's gonna bug me, so you don't want a high spot in there, because if you're running tight squishes, then you got one spot that's gonna be kissing on your piston. feels like we're there now. Now to fix, that's the texture. That's that right now. Now to fix that, we'll use the same sanding apparatus. Go in there and give her a couple light kisses. This one will not end up being perfect, but it will be all right. I'm gonna pause. I got to change the piece of paper. I'll bring you back. Alrighty, guys. Here's the new piece, and like I said, I like to, after I get it cut, I like to run my fingers around it, knock any kernels off that may be in there. And when you first go to put this in, you want to make sure that it'll go right in. Same thing here. You're gonna turn it nice and slow. Now that fresh piece is going to cut very, very quick and make a lot of dust in the first pass in a hurry. Okay, I see a piece of glue. It's coming off and dropped into that ring of death. I want to get that all out of there. I'm actually spin it backwards this time so I can get a fresh cut. I think it'll be good enough for what I'm going to do with this thing. We'll go a little bit more. This piece is actually dull now, but I'm going to keep going with it so it'll kind of polish it up in there a little bit. My battery's about dead. And then I'll take this, which is a little bit smaller. I'm going to break the top edge down there. I just push that in and kind of cone it over to break that top edge where the NIKASIL was. This is just dust. So this is ready for the next step. Now, if I had a saw for this, I would bolt it on, check the squish, get a squish reading, and say if it was, you know, whatever, if it was 60, then if you wanted 20 squish, you would know you got to cut 40 off the base, and whatever you cut off the base, cut off the skirt. So that's how I do these cheap, well, it's one of the ways how I do these cheap to get the NIKASIL out of there, to use Dino Joe's cutter. And my bit was not harmed cutting that cylinder if you use the sandpaper method to get the NIKASIL out of there. You guys take it easy and have a good one.